The big Delhi shake-up. 2 jailed ministers quit the cabinet. Sources say Minister Gehlot to get finance and Minister Rajkumar Anand to get education portfolio. BJP demands Delhi Chief Minister Kejriwal's resignation. BJP to hold protests at key locations across Delhi. K. Chandrasekhar Rao to call early elections. BJP gets battle ready. Amit Shah, JP Nadda hold key meeting on Telangana. Will KCR dissolve assembly before the December date? India's growth slows to 4.4% in the third quarter. Manufacturing sector continues to contract. Let's face the heat. India's hottest February in 122 years. 29.5 degrees Celsius is India's average maximum temperature in February. Big G20 foreign ministers meeting on Wednesday. US, China, Russia foreign ministers all in Delhi. India denies any issue over joint communique.
मैंने कई वकीलों से सुबह से बात की है।
ये संदेश पूरी दुनिया में जा रहा है आज कि सबसे ज्यादा काम करने वाले मंत्रियों के पीछे देश की केंद्र सरकार पड़ी हुई है।
If Mr. Manish Sisodia had any moral compass left, being the disciple of Anna Hazare movement, he ought to have resigned on the day this scandalous allegations came to light.
And the big challenge before Delhi's Aam Aadmi Party, which is heading the government in the national capital, is how are they going to handling the cabinet, especially when 2 of their key ministers are in jail and have quit. Well, according to the information from sources that we are getting, specifically the finance and the education portfolios are being given to 2 other existing key ministers. I'm being joined by my colleague Ankit for more on this. So Ankit, you have all the details.
In fact, Sneha, as you were talking since morning, the repercussion or the fallout of this big resignation has not only created a gap of 2 ministers out of the 7 in the national capital, but the 18 important portfolios which Manish Sisodia was handling, who gets those portfolios? Because most important of them was the finance ministry, because the finance minister has to present the budget in the national capital in just about 2 weeks. So now we have the full details. 2 ministers, Kailash Gehlot, Rajkumar Anand, both of them, the 18 portfolios of Manish Sisodia have been divided between 2. Kailash Gehlot gets 8 ministries, including the most important finance ministry. He also gets planning, public works department, PWD, power, home, urban development, irrigation and flood control and water. So out of the 18, 8 ministries have gone to Kailash Gehlot. He's a senior minister, and he's the one, as we were talking earlier also in the day, expectation was that finance will go to him because he's a senior cabinet minister who has been with Mr. Arvind Kejriwal and his cabinet for some time now. He's a member of parliament from the Dwarka constituency, from the Najafgarh constituency, I beg your pardon, and of the 10 ministries, other 10 ministries of Manish Sisodia have been given to Rajkumar Anand, who is a new entrant in the Kejriwal cabinet. So Rajkumar Anand gets a big, thumbs up and also a vote of confidence from Arvind Kejriwal. The important departments of education and health on which Arvind Kejriwal's entire Delhi model is based have been given to Rajkumar Anand. Apart from that, land and building, vigilance, services, tourism, art, culture and language, labor, employment and industries have also been given to Rajkumar Anand. Remember, Kailash Gehlot was already handling 6 portfolios. Now these 8 will combine with his existing 6 and will take his count to 14. Rajkumar Anand was handling 2 portfolios. His count goes to 12. These are the 2 top ministers now as far as the government of Arvind Kejriwal is concerned.
Right, Ankit, also the fact that on Wednesday there are these massive protests that are planned across Delhi in key locations by the BJP, now all guns blazing at the Chief Minister of Delhi, where BJP is demanding his resignation.
That's right. In fact, the BJP, and that is exactly what we were discussing earlier, that now with Manish Sisodia and Satyendar Jain, who have resigned out of the cabinet, the defense, or at least the kind of security net that Arvind Kejriwal has, is gone. And now this is in 10 years of the Aam Aadmi Party, from 2013 when they first came to power to today. This is possibly the first time this kind of an attack has taken place on Arvind Kejriwal and the government of Delhi. There have been few ministers, those who had resigned or were chucked out of the cabinet, but that was on the volition of the Aam Aadmi Party, on the pressure which has been created by the opposition and the circumstances in which the Aam Aadmi Party finds itself. This is the first time the 2 ministers have resigned. And the direct line of attack now is Arvind Kejriwal. So the BJP is taking the attack right at the doorsteps of the Chief Minister, saying that he is the minister responsible, or he is the man responsible for running the cabinet. He doesn't have any portfolios, and it is his responsibility if there is any corruption which is taking place as far as his cabinet is concerned. They are saying that all these allegations of the alleged liquor scam could not have happened if the Chief Minister of Delhi, was either not involved in it or did not know about it. So now they are asking for resignation. They are going to the top and gunning for Arvind Kejriwal, asking for his resignation. What sources also tell us is that there is going to be a cabinet expansion. 2 more cabinet ministers will come in, but that will happen in due course, not immediately.
Right. Thank you, Ankit, for all of those details. And from Delhi to Telangana, where there are concerns and reports emerging that the K. Chandrasekhar Rao government may actually hold elections much before the December date. So is it a possibility that the assembly may be dissolved? Well, whether that would happen or not is a matter of time. However, there seems to be a big face-off between KCR, or the Telangana government, and the BJP now brewing, even as K. Chandrasekhar Rao has decided to go national, to go big with the 2024 elections clearly on radar, and he not shying away from making that his political agenda. The BJP now has decided that it will be holding high stake key rallies across Telangana as part of its attempt to garner more votes, to garner key seats in Telangana. That's going to be the next stop in Telangana, in south of India, for BJP as it focuses on Telangana, perhaps the next state after Karnataka that they will be looking at. Amit Shah and JP Nadda to be campaigning there. And 24 hours after farmers at India's biggest onion mandi in Maharashtra's Lasalgaon stopped auctions because of continuously falling prices, NCP MLAs protested against the state government by wearing garlands made of onions outside the Maharashtra Assembly.
2 protests over onion prices in 24 hours in Maharashtra. The first by farmers at India's biggest onion mandi in Lasalgaon, and the second one by NCP MLAs in Mumbai wearing onion garlands. After a nearly 50% reduction in wholesale prices of onion in Lasalgaon in just the last fortnight. This is a big worry for someone like Mohan Jadhav, a marginal farmer in Nashik.
आज 1 एकड़ 80 से 90 हजार तक खर्चा हो रहा है, तो ये इतना खर्चा करके हम क्या करेंगे? कल किसान अभी आत्महत्या ही कर सकता है। उसने हमको 500 या 700 रुपए तक क्विंटल को अनुदान देना चाहिए।
After an uproar by the opposition, the government has promised relief.
निर्यातीवर बंदी नाही, नापेडची खरेदी सुरू झालेली आहे. 2.38 लाख टन मेट्रिक टन खरेदी झाली आहे, आणि त्याचबरोबर या ठिकाणी कांदा उत्पादक शेतकऱ्याच्या पाठीशी सरकार उभं राहील.
With Sohit Mishra in Mumbai, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And there have been major concerns over what has been several young people dying, and all of this being caught on camera, suddenly collapsing in Telangana. Umar Sudhi reports.
A pre-marriage haldi event at a home in Hyderabad's Kalapathar. There's merrymaking and laughter. The groom's brother-in-law, Mohammad Rabbani, reaches out to apply turmeric and suddenly collapses. At a gym in Hyderabad's Boinpalli, 24-year-old constable Vaidi Vishal was working out when he suddenly collapsed and died. Hyderabad Police Commissioner C.V. Anand told NDTV he was a fit and healthy young man with no history of substance abuse. This 19-year-old from Maharashtra had come to Nirmal in Telangana to participate in a marriage celebration. He was dancing and suddenly collapsed.
Sudden collapses are usually because of the arrhythmias, that is the rhythm disturbance. Heart suddenly starts beating at a very irregular, fast rate, and that arrhythmia is most of the time is responsible for a sudden collapse and where the heart stops. So out of hospital cardiac arrest can be saved by giving a shock which we call as a defibrillator, a defibrillation.
At Hyderabad's Aramghar Junction, 42-year-old Balu had just got off a bus and collapsed. Luckily for him, Constable Rajshekhar persistently performed cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR, a life-saving procedure, and saved his life.
CPR is a procedure and it's a skill which we believe at this time every citizen globally should learn this. This is not something which is region or in India or anything. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation at this time needs to be taught to everybody.
I recommend that every school, every college, every software engineer, software guys, they should learn all this, because help doesn't come in just a second. So we need to do that and we can save many patients.
आपके ये हथेली उसके छाती के लोअर बोन पे रहना चाहिए. ये बोन, बीच का बोन, स्टर्नम बोन बोलते हैं. इस इधर हाथ रखना चाहिए और दूसरा हाथ उसके हाथ के ऊपर और स्टार्ट कंप्रेशन और कंप्रेशन करना शुरू करना है.
Life-saving procedure, something which looks fairly simple, but something for which you must get yourself trained so you're equipped with both the confidence and the ability to be able to perform and save a life. In Hyderabad, with camera person Nagaraju, Umar Sudhir, NDTV.
CPR definitely something that we all must know. And India's growth has slowed down to 4.4% in the third quarter. Manufacturing sector continues to contract. Priyanshi reports.
GDP grew by 4.4% in the October to December 2022 quarter. As you can see in that graph that it has slowed for the second straight quarter. Now, how does it compare with previous quarters? It is lower than 5.4% that was reported in quarter 3 last year. It's also lower than 6.3% that was reported in quarter 2 this year as well. But the 4.4% rate is completely in line with what the Reserve Bank of India had expected at 4.4%. Now, the forecast or the second advanced estimate for financial year 2023 has also now been released by the government, and the economy is estimated to grow at 7%, which is higher than the Reserve Bank's 6.8% forecast. But there's a big persisting worry for the Indian economy, and that is the manufacturing sector. It is the only sector to in fact contract year on year in the Indian economy. The gross value added by the manufacturing sector has gone down by 1.1% compared to what it was in quarter 3 last year. There are in fact 3 sectors that have contracted compared to quarter 2 as well. These are manufacturing, electricity, gas, water supply and other utility services as well, and financial, real estate and professional services. So the primary sectors that add to the total GDP, these are manufacturing and services. We are seeing that those sectors are contracting, and that's definitely concerning for the economy. While we've talked about the contraction, let's now look at the sectors that that performed the best among the others. That was trade, hotels, transport, communication. That sector staged the highest year-on-year growth among the various sectors, and they staged a growth of 9.7%. Now, these are the sectors that in fact were the worst hit after the pandemic, and they are now recovering. In fact, the economy at large is recovering after the pandemic. The quarterly GDP value is now 12% above pre-pandemic levels, from around 36 lakh crore in quarter 3 2020 before the pandemic to now 40 crore in quarter 3 financial year 2023. Now, why is the GDP growth rate falling though for the last 2 quarters? The economy is hurt by high inflation globally and also high interest rate hikes. High prices and interest rates really hurt consumption and demand in the economy, and that's what's being reflected in the slowing GDP growth rates for the last 2 quarters.
For now, let's just quickly slip into a short break. Welcome back. And it's a big G20 foreign ministers meeting on Wednesday. US, China, Russian foreign ministers all are in Delhi. India denies any issue over joint communique.
Will India be able to break the logjam between the West and Russia at the G20 foreign ministers meeting to be held in Delhi later this week? Days after a joint communique could not be adopted at the finance ministers meeting in Bengaluru, the Ukraine issue is now back at centre stage and the focus squarely on India. Though government sources have dismissed the commentary regarding the chair's summary as politically biased and motivated and said it reflected the Bali consensus, however, as G20 president, will India be able to bring consensus between the West and Russia, which is now supported by China? Western nations including the US, Germany, Canada, France, Japan, Italy and the EU refer to the war in Ukraine as Russian aggression and condemn the move. Russia says this is not a war per se, but a special operation triggered in part by Western moves against its territorial integrity.
There are countries around the world, notably Russia, that are challenging the rules-based order, the principles of the UN Charter, the principles of international law, the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We'll continue to discuss these issues with our Indian partners. I have no doubt that they'll be on the agenda for and around the G20.
NDTV has now learnt about the sharp differences which emerged at the finance ministers' meeting last week from this first-hand account.
There are 2 paragraphs on which there was no agreement, and there are 17 or 18 paragraphs on which agreement was reached in principle. So at this stage of the G20 presidency that India has assumed, I would say it is not ideal to not have a communique, but I think we can also see where the disagreements were and where agreements have emerged.
In the run-up to the September G20 summit of the world leaders, India would be pushing for a declaration, but knows that can happen only if there is consensus. So far, there are no signs of that emerging. The already existing differences over the Ukraine war are becoming even more pronounced when it comes to the language or the text with reference to the war in the joint communique of the G20 leaders in the various meetings. After the Bengaluru incident, now a similar situation threatens the foreign ministers' meeting of the G20 leaders in New Delhi. Will India be able to drive a consensus through, or will a joint communique in New Delhi also be difficult? In New Delhi, this is Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
And at a time when globally job cuts seem to be a reality, there seems to be at least one section of jobs that have seen an 80% surge in demand. Sakshi Bajaj tells you which ones are these.
In refreshing news, after all the tech layoffs, we now have a report saying there's been an 81% surge in the demand for green jobs. Now, talent platform Foundit reports a 64% month-on-month growth in green job postings. This, of course, is an all-time high for green job postings. Among job roles, sustainability managers are highest in demand as companies across construction and manufacturing try to account for the environmental impact of their activities. Other roles in demand include really environmental consultants, environmental, social and governance analysts really, safety specialists and design engineers. The automobile industry has seen a rise in demand for green professionals, with active measures being taken to cap transport emissions, such as designing and, of course, making better use of manufacturing resources there in that industry. Now, this rise in green job postings has been across metro cities, with Delhi, Mumbai and Bengaluru reflecting the enormous potential really for green growth. The urgent need to create a workforce to adapt to these new skills as well as focus on upskilling have also seen a significant mention in this report.